Is there anything too crazy for libs right now when it comes to this war on the very foundations of this country, on looking at all of us as individuals, on judging people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin? Is there anything that it just even the libs would say, oh, that's, I mean, come on, that's a little too much. They're trying to restore affirmative action now. The University of California system, it had been gone for over a decade now. System still functioned, people still going to school, but all it meant is that you had fewer Hispanic and black students going to the two most difficult to get into UC schools, but they didn't really change the overall makeup of the rest of the institution in terms of the demographics, right? It was essentially the same, but you didn't have as many black and Latino students going to Berkeley and going to UCLA, and that's unacceptable. The left wants that to change again. And so then you'll have students that would not have gotten into those schools, who get into those schools, who struggle with the academic work that happens in those schools because the standards have been lowered academically. We all know that this is what happens. And then they'll leave those schools. They'll have this fancy credential. But anybody who says, hold on a second, you know, what is this really good for that student going forward? How dare you? How dare you? You know, OK, well, I thought this was supposed to be about elite academic ability in these schools and not running a social engineering experiment. But the left obviously doesn't see it that way. So that's what's going to happen. And if you say, hold on, if you state things that are true, like what I just said, there will be students who are black or Latino once they restore affirmative action, who academically are ill prepared, not for college, but for Berkeley or UCLA, very competitive admission schools. That's considered you're talking about the facts, and they're going to say, oh, no, you can't do that. And that it will discriminate against Asian students. Overwhelmingly, the single biggest demographic at these schools is Asian, right? That's the single big. I mean, I think there's a majority of students at Berkeley now who are Asian, more Asians than whites. It's close. I might be. But, I mean, a lot of Asian students getting in. And we never are allowed to sort of talk about, OK, Asian per capita household wealth higher than white per capita household wealth in a country that the left tells us is so racist and there's so much white privilege. And, you know, Asians were discriminated against. Asians during World War II were put into internment camps by Democrat FDR, of course. You know, there's the Chinese Exclusion Act. There are all these different efforts to expel Asians after they were brought here to help with the railroads, to build the railroad system. You know, there was a lot of discrimination against the Asian community in this country, and now the Asian American community. And yet they have risen to a point where socioeconomically they're in a better position than the white majority. But we're so racist in this country. Well, why are we so racist when this isn't even, if it's a system of oppression, how did the Asian American community manage to, but, Asians tend to be Democrats and, Asian Americans rather. And so they don't want to, they don't like being used as the, quote, model minority, end quote. That's often the criticism here. And I point this out because we keep repeating these cycles and having these conversations. And they're one of the reasons why nothing really improves is that we can't talk about what's happening. We have to always have discussions with a heightened sensitivity to whatever the left declares is acceptable and not acceptable. Otherwise, you lose your job. So they want you to walk through a minefield to talk about issues of race in this country. They want you to, the left insists we all walk through, it's a minefield if you're a white guy who's not a liberal, right? Then they want you to walk through the minefield, and then they complain that you're not running through the minefield. Why are you just kind of walking so in such a dainty fashion? Why are you so cautious all the time? Come on, go a little faster. What's wrong? Can't we have a conversation? You're like, I don't want, you've put all these mines here, and if I say something that, it's just, if I just say certain facts, certain data you can bring up, boom, blown up, you're done. You're done. We got another one, and they like that. They like that. That sends a message that's important for the left, important for Democrats. See, this guy stepped out of line with wrong think, got blown away, so to speak, metaphorically. So I bring this up because, I mean, when is it too much? When is it too crazy? In Oregon County, I mentioned this early in the week on the show and actually didn't get around to it because I was so busy talking about other things. A county in Oregon has, this according to CBS News, okay, this is a news story, vetted, true, has, quote, decided to make people of color exempt from its mandatory mask policy, citing the potential for racial profiling. The decision comes as multiple counties in Oregon have ramped up face covering requirements to slow the spread of coronavirus. That's right. Masking for everybody to stop coronavirus, unless you're a minority and don't like the idea of wearing a mask. Then in this county, look, this is libs running the show. Okay, this is libs in charge, it's Democrats. If you don't want to and you're a minority, well, then you get a pass. How is this not illegal? You know, really ask me this. So now racial discrimination is acceptable as long as it is against, and I mean in the law, legally speaking, it's acceptable as long as you are white. You can be discriminated against if you are white. Your rights can be trampled on if you are white in certain areas. And explicitly in the law, it says that, you know, if you're white, you got to do this. If you're not white, no, you don't have to. Does anyone want to try to defend this on the left? They will. Well, any of the big names out there? Where's fake Tapper when we need him? Oh, I'm a journo. Sure you are. You jerk. This is the CBS piece wrote this. Violence and discrimination. This is for the, this is from the county involved here. Violence and discrimination are a daily experience for people who are black, indigenous, and people of color. Violence is a daily experience? Racism and racist reactions to black, indigenous, and people of color wearing face coverings is a reality. And yet we know face coverings can help people and save lives. Multnomah County does not tolerate discrimination or violence toward individuals because of their race, ethnicity, or identity. So that means that face coverings don't have to be worn by those individuals? Yep. That's what it means. It's troubling, friends. And it's going to get more troubling. It's going to get worse until people will say, this is crap. This isn't who we are. We're not a country that sees everybody based on their race, first and foremost. We don't make distinctions or decisions about people, good or bad, based on their race. That's racism. Racism is a very simple definition, right? It is making decisions, distinctions, criticism, or praise based upon skin color, based upon race. There is not good racism and bad racism. Racism is bad. Democrats, of course, don't accept this. I saw this story. I mean, the HuffPost is completely insane. But I'll just read you some of this because you're going to see more. This is more of the struggle session. More of the, oh my gosh, I have been part of the systemic oppression and not recognizing my privilege, and I'm playing into stereotype by doing this or that. All this stuff. I'll just read you some of this. This was published in the Huffington Post as a piece by a guest writer. Quote, I'm an Asian woman engaged to a white man, and honestly, I'm struggling with that. Oh, God, another Asian girl, white boy couple, I groan, dropping my fiancé's hand. He hates it when I do this. So do I, really. I know it's unkind and self-loathing, but every time I see another couple of our racial makeup, a little part of me sinks. We live in San Francisco, so this dip is as common as the hills. In these moments, I wish we were anything else, that he were my gay best friend, or we were startup co-founders, that he were Asian and I were white, or that we were exquisitely ambiguous races, or that I could sink like my feelings into the sidewalk and be a little worm and date whoever I wanted without considering social perception. Shame is neither the wisest nor most mature part of oneself, but it still has a voice. Stop it, guys, my shame wants to say to these other couples. Can't you see the more of us there are, the worse it looks? It, meaning the prevalent trend of Asian women seeming to end up with white men. It, meaning the perpetuation of Asian fetish. This is so sad. It's really sad that somebody would be in a relationship with another human being and think about how this looks on the race dating statistics. Like, who cares? Who cares? I mean, this is one area where we would think, you're allowed to love who you love, like who you like, be with who you want to be with. One of the great things about America is that you walk around, date anyone you want. No one, no one has a problem with that. It's no one's business. And anyone else who has a problem with it is a moron. But you see, libs, because they've so brainwashed themselves now into this, they have a problem with it. And there's like this tone of, in this whole piece, this tone of apology from an Asian woman dating a white man because, oh, look at us, we're doing this thing that has become this stereotype and I'm playing into Asian fetish. Why would you undermine your fiance? Maybe he just loves you as a human being. I mean, I don't know these people, but you're essentially assuming that you're playing into this Asian fetish. No, people just like to date people they're attracted to, they want to be around. But this is also going to be a place where, look, the revolution makes no exceptions or concessions. The left-wing Marxist identity politics revolution that we're going through right now, doesn't matter if you just love a person for loving that person. There'll be people who think they're allowed to question you, who are allowed to, think about this, right? We've come to a place as a country where you can date anyone you want of any race you want. And I know that was not always the case. Legally speaking, was not always even the case. We've come to a place now where that is absolutely all 50 states, date whoever you want. That's the America we live in, and God bless it, and it's wonderful. People of any race, creed, or color, date them, love them, marry them, make a life together, have kids. And now Democrats, the left, is saying, well, I feel like I shouldn't be perpetuating this cycle of Asian woman dating white man. Why? You love who you love, you date who you date. Who the heck cares what anybody else says? But this is how rotten their ideology has gotten. And this is really, it is truly sad. It's like these articles you read about kids who are publicly calling out their parents for being Trump supporters, turning on your own family. No political belief or political party or wokeness or, Facebook likes. None of this is worth ever turning your back on your own family and the people who love you and care about you. That's all that really matters. All this other stuff is just distraction. But the left finds nothing sacred, certainly not God and not even the love that one man and one woman can have for each other. First and foremost, got to look at the demographics and see how that plays into the lib narrative of all the white supremacy and systemic racism out there. These people are damaged. They're psychologically and emotionally damaged. It's the truth. And it's sad for this country. And the best thing that we can do is tell them that they're sad and damaged and that we on the right, we who are conservatives, date whoever we want, love whoever we want, don't care about the color, don't care about the ethnic origin. We're just about people. And ultimately, that's the best place to be. That's the truest place to be. We care about individuals. We care about human beings. Why can't the left just adopt that? Oh, because of systems of oppression. This is all talking points for morons. All right, time to get into the roll call where we get to hear from all of you, including voicemail time, which I really, really enjoy. Producer Brandon, fire number one.
This is Joe from Austin, Texas, and I really like your program. I don't get to hear Rush much anymore, but I faithfully listen to you every night. So keep up the good work. You're the heir apparent.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's really high praise. That's very kind of you, and I'm honored that you listen to me at night. And the fact that I'm even talked about in the same breath, the same paragraph as Rush Limbaugh is, there's no higher praise professionally than I could ever have. I mean, that man is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Next up, please fire away, Producer Brandon.
Hey, Buck, long-time listener from Springfield, Ohio, named Chris. I need some pick-me-up. Don't know what to do. I'm about to throw in the towel. We just spent 2 hours arguing with a 12-year-old about racist country. What are you supposed to do when you're so outnumbered? The media, the education, all the politicians, they all just lie every single day. But keep up the good work, Buck. Later.
Hey, thanks, my man. Thanks, Chris. Look, I get the frustration, and I'm in this business, and I'm trying to fight every day, and I understand why you would have these feelings. And here's what I'll tell you. With kids, I don't have kids, so you know more about that than I do. But for debate, so when it comes to debate, that I understand pretty well. And a really good way to go, a really good way to, especially when people have been indoctrinated and young people don't know anything about politics. They don't know anything about, and when I say young people, I mean 12-year-olds don't understand society. They're still being taught. It's a good tactic, I think, often to ask them what would need to be true for them to not believe the thing that they believe. And I know that can sound a little bit, but say, okay, you think America is a racist country. What would need to happen for America to not be a racist country? How would we not have racist law enforcement and work at the problem that way? I think that can be very instructive. I use it with libs that I talk to you about a whole number of issues, right? And that can be, and because what you'll often find out is that they'll say, oh, Donald Trump is a fascist. And I'll say, okay, what would have to be true for Donald Trump to not be a fascist? A great example of this was I had this liberal group when I was doing the Hill show for Hill TV Rising with Crystal Ball at the time. Now Sagar and Jetty has taken over my seat. And I remember we had someone come in, they were talking about regulations and how all Trump has done is cut regulations, and he's cut, 15,000 regulations or whatever. I'm making up that number, but whatever it is out of the federal code, and started going through all of the good regulations, in their opinion, that he cut. And I just asked a very simple question. I said, okay, so your group is all about regulation and opposed to Trump's cutting of regulations. And this is what you do day in and day out. This is what your PAC or your think tank or whatever it was. Are any of the 15,000 regulations that Trump cut, do you support? Can you name one that you actually support? One. Crickets. Nothing. Not a one. And they were saying, and you have to understand this too, that they were a nonpartisan group. That was the claim. And I said, okay, so you're all about Trump's regulation cutting, and you're just there to be a public education foundation about regulations and how they're necessary. And you're telling me you're not partisan. You can rattle off all the regulations Trump cut that you don't like that he cut. He cut 15,000, and you can't name one that was good. No idea. Done. Exposed. Booyah. Finished. Right? And I'm not saying finish him. I'm not saying look for opportunities to make a kid feel dumb. But you should certainly approach, I'd say come at the arguments in different ways, and also know that you're talking to a kid. And you know more than kids than I do, because I don't have any yet, but I'm working on it. Not that fast, but I'm working on it. Working from home is driving up the worst type of cybercrime, home title theft. We're doing it all from home these days. Working, banking, video conferences, meal deliveries, and shopping. Cyber criminals are targeting our homes. Actually, they want the money they can get by taking out loans against your home. The crime is home title theft. The FBI is warning people about it all the time. Home Title Lock is how you protect your home from cyber thieves. Your home's legal title's online, where they find it and forge your signature stating you sold your home to them. Then they'll take out loans on your home and leave you in debt. Banks, insurance, and basic identity theft services don't protect you. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. Protect your home now. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection to help you through this crisis. That's Home Title Lock, code BUCK. Again, HometitleLock.com, code BUCK. Check it out today.
Hello, this is Brandon from Colorado, and I just want to say I absolutely love your guys' show. I've been listening to your show for a couple years. I would rather listen to you guys than the Sean Hannity show, the Rush Limbaugh show. You guys are number one. You're awesome. Love you guys. I 100% agree with Buck when he always is talking about how this is war, and I agree 100%. The Democrats know that this is war, and they are doing everything that they can to destroy this country, and I think that you're right, Buck. We as Americans, as patriots, we've got to stand up. We've got to fight for our country. So love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
That was a fantastic voicemail. Thank you so much. Very kind, very very generous to us and what we do here in the Freedom Hut. So thank you, and that really does mean a lot. I love this stuff, man. This sends me off from the weekend in a good mood, which these days, good mood can be kind of hard to come by. But thank you for your support and for listening to us. And yes, I think that we need to understand that we are in an ideological fight, that this isn't just about, whether or not Trump will win this election. It's what does the country look like if he loses? And, I wasn't somebody who thought, look, I thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the last election. So I'm honest about that. So I wasn't telling everybody, oh, if she wins, the country's going to fall apart and be destroyed. I thought it was going to be really bad. But with the left as it is right now, they'll be able to claim that the reason Biden won is because of their tactics, because of the shock troops on the streets and the looting and the arson and the rioting and all this. And that is going to then be reflected in the kinds of policies the Democrats are instituting. The left has taken over the Democrat Party. The socialists effectively run the Democrat Party now. It's just the Democrats provide cover for them and make things seem, more acceptable, more palatable to those independent voters and to the swing voters that are going to be the difference makers in states. Although obviously, this is where the classic line from a political analyst, it's really going to come down to turnout. Yeah. Just like it's really going to come down to whichever team scores more points. Well done. Good call. So thank you, Brandon, for calling in. Producer Brandon, who's next?
Hi, Buck and producer Mark. It's Jerry here from sunny Scotland. I'm a huge fan of the show. I love the stuff that you put out. It gives me lots of ammunition to try and red pill the libs that are over here in the UK, as there are lots of them. Even though we are ruled by the Conservative Party, they're very to the left. So it's great to actually get some proper content and information from you guys over the pond, as there isn't really anyone this side of the Atlantic that does the same. Again, well done for what you do. Really, really glad to listen to you on a daily basis, and keep up the good work. Shields high.
Shields high from Scotland, man. That is awesome. Okay, let's just all say it. That guy had the most badass badass accent I've ever heard of. That was amazing. I honestly felt like I should put on a kilt and grab a broadsword, grab my claymore and start running across the field. The English. That was awesome. Hey, man, thank you so much for your fantastic voicemail. And I always say that we have listeners all over the world. We really do, which is really fun. That's one of the great things about the digital age we live in. We have listeners in downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan. We've had listeners downrange in Syria, obviously all military folks. We have listeners in South Korea, in Ireland, in Israel, in Canada, and by the way, if you're listening, we used to have a Team Buck Czech Republic. We had someone listening right in from the Czech Republic. If you're part of Team Buck International, and I'm not giving you a shout out for your country, please at least send us in a quick Facebook message so we know that we've got, Team Buck Guatemala in the mix, or Team Buck Uzbekistan, wherever. I don't know. I'm sure we got people all over the place. So please do let us know. That's really fun. But that was a great, Producer Brandon, that was a pretty awesome message, right?
Oh, yeah. I was ready to scream freedom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That guy's awesome. Hey, look, if the more Brits, it's so important to us that our Western European brothers and sisters, our European brothers and sisters, maintain sanity and what we would call some degree of conservative politics. I know the political alignments there are a little bit different, but things like, constitutionalism, I know they don't have constitutions, but, contracts, rule of law, fact-based, evidence-based decision-making, individual rights, individual freedom, liberty. We need that everywhere. We need that in as many places of the world as possible. I want Team Buck Japan listening to this. I want everybody listening. All right. Next one, please.
What's going on, Buck? Producer Mark. Hope y'all doing good. Real quick, just got a quick question. So I'm trying to fight the good fight, put out information, try not to be a silent majority person, but actually a wartime conservative. And I just want to know what are some good books to start reading specifically about, kind of understanding some of the Bolshevik tactics that we're seeing. I've downloaded a couple things, and I've also purchased Rules for Radicals, as well as the Federalist Papers, a bunch of other books that the liberals will probably ban eventually. But just kind of want some advice on some other good books so I can further understand the history of what's going on here, so I can better fight against it. Shield time, Buck.
Shield time, my man. Thank you so much for calling in. You got a great start there with that book list. You have Rules for Radicals, which, remember, there you're reading the enemy treatise. You're reading the enemy tactics. But it's important. You got to. If the enemy gives you a handbook, this is how we're going to fight. Don't you want to know? That's Rules for Radicals. There's also a book, if you're up for it, that is a treatise, an enemy manual called it's written by the Invisible Committee. It's called The Coming Insurrection. I would check that one out too. That's a little harder to find. It is online. You can get it, but The Coming Insurrection, it might even be like a Google. If you just Google it, you can read a PDF of it. But if you're looking for really classic text to understand what's going on, and this is making the rounds in conservative media right now, there is nothing that will put you in better stead than the Edmund Burke's seminal Reflections on the Revolution in France. Edmund Burke is a conservative's conservative. He was commenting on what was going on with the French Revolution. I highly, highly recommend. Dude, look, here's another thing, team. I'm a big believer in this. Have a bunch of books and don't feel like, book reading, if you have a stack by your bed, and I used to do this too, and I would go, I have 10 books. I must read the first cover to cover, and the second cover to cover, and the third, you don't have to do that. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you probably don't, but I think most of us get in that habit. And that's why if I tell you, it's a great biography, the Robert Moses biography, it's of Robert Moses, written by Caro, called The Power Broker, and you'll say, Buck, that book is like 1,000 pages. And you'll be like, yeah, but I'm like, just read the first 50, read the first 100 and get a sense of it. And then come back to it later and feel and skip around to an interesting chapter. It's not, we get trained to think of books as reading assignments like we do in school. Producer Nick just beat me to it, but I completely agree with him. He just threw in the mix Witness by Whittaker Chambers. Absolutely. Read Witness by Whittaker Chambers. Read Reflections on the Revolution in France by Edmund Burke. Read The Road to Serfdom by Hayek is excellent, but don't feel like you got to finish if you read the first 100 pages of it, which you could do in a couple of hours, read the first 100 pages and come back to it later, but put it down. It's not supposed to be work. It's supposed to be expanding your knowledge base, your horizons, your philosophical background on these issues. Come back to it. Don't feel chained to, I got to finish. And I just fell into this too. I picked up for fun. I read this book because I wanted to learn. I wanted something that was just, I picked up Into Thin Air by Krakauer, who's a lib, but he's a good writer. And it's about the Everest disaster. And I read the whole book. And you know what? Didn't need to. I could have read the first 50 pages, learned a little bit about how you climb Mount Everest, and I would have been done. But I was like, come on. It's an easy read. I'll finish. But now, I took time away from a book I'm reading on chasing down a renowned pirate, called The Enemy of All Mankind. I'll talk to you about that one another time. My dad gave that to me just recently. And, I took away from and I have such limited time. So what I'm saying is, have these books and think of them more like companions. Think of them more like reference manuals or things that when you're up for it, you're going to pick up and read a chapter. Read a chapter of one of these books, especially the more dense things. I mean, if I tell you to read John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, which I think I've probably read through all the way, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, you're going to be like, Buck, it's like homework. Well, read 30, 40 pages, put it down. Go read something else that you want later on. Come back, read another 30, 40. It doesn't even have to be in order. Absorb. Think about every book you've ever read. Could you pass a reading comprehension test a month later on everything that happened? No. Read for concepts. Read for background and ideas and context. Don't think that, this is like one thing that I do when I'm reading all these books on Islamic history. There are a lot of names that you're just not going to retain. There are a lot of names that you're not going to remember. And there's a reason for that. It's not possible, but read for the stories, read for the understanding. I mean, I'm still trying to do this too. And I often what I say to you is really me reminding myself of something. But Witness by Whittaker Chambers is a fantastic book that producer Nick just recommended to me to recommend to you. These are all, Reflections on the Revolution in France by Burke, Witness, Whittaker Chambers. I'm trying to think of other, producer Nick, if you think of any others like that are the must reads that aren't, like homework. People don't want to do homework. They want to read. They want to learn. They want to escape what else is going on out there. All right, producer Brandon, next voicemail.
Hey, it's Chris from Spokane, Washington. So I was hearing you talk about our country trying to reshape the Middle East countries into something that we thought that they should be, and how it hasn't improved our lives or anyone else around the world. I was in the Army, and I was in Fallujah twice, 2 different deployments from '07 through '09, or to 2010. And I was a sergeant on my last deployment, and I can tell you that one of the big reasons that it didn't work is because they are an entirely different culture and people, and we try to create them into something that we think they should be in our culture, and it just doesn't work. It's not our responsibility to police the world and reculture them. It's their responsibility. Keep up the good work.
Hey, man, thank you so much for your service, and I've heard that from so many people who were overseas for what really were these nation-building projects that we were told were just about us protecting ourselves. But I think we've all learned a very important lesson with that. And that was the Republican Party that was really, Democrats went along with it, but that was the Republican Party that pushed all that. Let's not forget it. That was the Bush-McCain axis. So let's be honest about our own past as a party too.
Hey, Buck. It's Matt from Greensboro, North Carolina. I just want to say thank you for letting me know about Parler. I've really enjoyed it. I've never been a Twitter guy, but I like participating in a conservative platform and supporting it. My question is, do you think that with the success that Parler is on its way to becoming, that will inspire some of these conservative billionaires to invest in more conservative platforms? I mean, take the newly red-pilled Elon Musk. Imagine if him and the Trump Juniors teamed up to make a new streaming platform. I would download an app called Tesla and check it out to support it. Either way, y'all have a good one. Shields high to the team, and just keep up the great work.
Hey, thank you so much, man, and some excellent input from you on this. From down in Greensboro, I hope that there'll be more interest. I hope that there'll be some of the people who could step up. I mean, the country, the culture of the country, and with it, the politics are at stake right now in a way that is very, I mean, I would say it's existential. I mean, America can be transformed in a way that it will never come back from if the forces of the lawless socialist left are able to accomplish what they want to here. Now we're trying to hold them back, but look at history, my friends. Revolutions seem impossible until they happen, and then the society has changed for sometimes a decade, sometimes 100, sometimes a few hundred years. Look at our society; we had a revolution. It's how we got started. So it's really easy to just say, "Oh, the status quo, the status quo." Yeah, that's right. 9 out of 10 times, and then the 10th time, you're in a different world afterwards. So I think we have to take this very seriously. As for, I just want platforms explicitly, culturally, as a company, devoted to free speech and free ideas. They don't have to be conservative because, I don't want it to be always just a Trump favorable platform or a Republican favorable or conservative or libertarian or no. Just we will put forward free speech, and we are not part of the woke mob. And we will evaluate ideas based upon their marketability. If I went forward and presented, and I've been through this process, something maybe I'll tell you about another time. But if I went forward and presented a scripted show right now that showed a George Washington in a favorable light. If I want to do a series on George Washington, do you think that I would get a serious hearing, even a meeting from the people that make these decisions at Netflix, at Hulu, at HBO? They'd laugh in my face because of the politics right now. And you say, oh, Buck, but they made a John Adams series. Yeah, they made a John Adams series 15 years ago. You think if you tried it right now, they'd go, oh, I don't think so. And then anything that touches on any of these subjects, you know that the wokeness would be the single most powerful tool of the left. I didn't get to the written roll calls today. Sorry about that. We had so many voicemails. 844-900-BUCK. If you want to call in, please do set us up so we can do a great Friday voice roll call next week. We really enjoy this. Go to bucksexton.com. We'll be posting there throughout the weekend. Also, subscribe. YouTube. I got a commentary going up today that's only for YouTube. Go to youtube.com/bucksexton. We are going to be putting up more and more special video content there. We're just a Freedom Hut lean, mean content machine, although not so lean. Feel a little like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man these days. Snow Princess got to stop making such good cookies. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We are in this together to the end, but relax when you can. Take it easy this weekend. Make yourself a marg or have a nice beer. Have some mac and cheese if you can. Until Monday.